say to you all, today we are in the situation of COVID-19 because of our negligence and not believing in prevention. So let's start a movement from mask to no mask and take our generation into the happy life ahead, and stay happy, be happy, keep environment happy around you. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our show today. And we have with us a very, very special guest. But before that, I would like to thank our sponsors, C4 Integrated Mumbai, India. Thank you so much for your support. So you must be wondering what today's program, The Magic in You, is about. Well, the very essence of Triveni is to bring forward and showcase the people who make a difference through their contribution to our society to make our world a better place to live in. In the midst of doom and gloom, it is this goodness, the strength and courage shown by them which helps others to dream, which gives people wings to fly. This is no less than magic. And it is that magic in them we would love our guests to share with all of us here. So we have a very special guest today who chooses to work in uncomfortable territories, braving various hardships and also risking her life to represent the marginalized and give them a voice by reporting their stories. It's not everyone's cup of tea, I must confess. It needs tremendous courage and the fire inside to deal with such extreme cases and causes. I welcome Smita Sharma, a photojournalist based in Delhi, India.
Hi, Shonali.
Hi, Smita. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you very much. So,
Is it afternoon there already? No.
It is. Yes, it's 4:00 here.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's almost bedtime in India. But I know in India, people do not eat their dinner early. So I'm sure it's not bedtime. But here it would have been closer to bedtime.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's so lovely to see you and connect with you. And you know, the work which you do is commendable, Smita. And you have no idea how excited I'm feeling now for the journey I'm going to have with you for the next 1 hour. So, Smita, your work is also known as visual journalism, where your camera does the talking. And your work involves humanitarian issues, social issues, and human rights issues. And you've also covered gender issues, sexual crimes, and human trafficking in the global south through your visual narratives. And you've also done a TED Fellow. You are also a TED Fellow and an IWMF, International Women's Media Foundation Reporting Fellow. You have been awarded the Amnesty International Media Award for photojournalism and a One World Media Award for your short film, Rebel with a Cause. And your work has been published in the New York Times, BBC World, WSG, Time Magazine, Channel 4, CNN, National Geographic, amongst many others. And your work has also been exhibited and shown globally, including at the UN headquarters in New York. So Smita, that's an amazing list of accomplishments. Like, wow, literally. So
Thank you. That was a real detailed introduction. So thanks for having me, and I'm really glad to connect with an audience that I have not interacted before. I'm sure there will be other people joining in from India as well, but I'm really excited to represent the work, to the Indian community, mostly in the UK. Thanks.
Most welcome, our pleasure. So Smita, commercial news organizations generally cover humanitarian causes related to major emergencies. So how did you land up in humanitarian journalism, which is also outside emergency situations?
That's a very, very interesting question, and I wasn't expecting it at the beginning, but I'm glad you asked. I don't think I was really made for daily news or spot news. I'm not saying that that is not important. The coverage of the COVID in very recent times. Or right now, the Olympics, there are a lot of people who are covering the Olympics, although it comes under the genre of sports. But these are important things that we need to know in our contemporary times, right?
Yeah.
But what I think, I don't know if I fit in, I wouldn't put myself in that. But I think what I really care about is those underreported issues, things that are in front of us, but we don't really hear or see them until something really major, drastic happens. And this is the reason why I investigate, and I like documenting such issues, and I try to bring global attention to them so that something good can come out of it. I'm not saying that I'm going to make a huge change, but photography is a powerful tool. And even if when I'm not alive after, who knows, 50 years, I don't want to, even if I'm not alive after 100 years, my photographs are going to be there as a historic record, right? And it's going to be beneficial in some way, because when people see it later, they will realize that, oh, this is what was happening then.
Absolutely, Smita. So well put. Me being a speech and language therapist, we really hone on to visuals, because there is an auditory form of information coming to us, but there's also a visual form. And when they come together, visuals, we always say visuals, visuals, visuals. It goes all the way for us in our work. And pictures, videos, anything which is visual has a lasting impact on any work. So yeah, I mean, a photograph tells so many things. It tells a story. It has a narrative. And I've seen your photographs. They are so powerful. I mean, it's a very, maybe just a simple thing which you've captured, but the way you have captured it tells so much about your sensitivity and also the passion which you have. So coming to that, coming on from that, would you like to talk us through about the work which you have? What would you like to talk about today with us and share with our viewers?
Sure. So the first body of work that I would like to show is from a series. It's from an assignment that I did for Human Rights Watch into 2017, which was in Central African Republic. And by the name, you know that it's a country in the center, in the middle of Africa, right? And it's a landlocked country where there's a civil war that has been going on since 2012. But we don't hear much about it. First of all, because it's a violence happening in a poor country in Africa, and it's almost the narrative here is that there's always something going on there, some country or the other. There's always a war going on. So that is the reason why Human Rights Watch, focused, because they are an international non-profit who really do a lot of research, and they report on crimes and things of international relevance, any kind of human rights violations. So I was sent there with a team of two other women. One was a video journalist and a researcher from Human Rights Watch. So we were three ladies who were working on it. And maybe you can show the work, and then I can explain a little bit about it.
Yeah, okay, we'll do that. So if we can go on to Smita's pictures on the Central African Republic work which is done.
So I think this is the Hargila army.
That's the Hargila. So yeah,
I'm going to show that later on.
Yeah, okay. So it's the central, that one.
Mm-hmm. Or else I could, this is the one.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. So Okay. So those were the pictures taken by Smita Sharma on the Central African Republic, violence against women.
So yeah, I can
Yeah.
explain a little about the story that I did there. I'm sure visually you could understand a little bit, and you could see that you could not identify the women. You could not see their faces properly, and there was a reason for it. The reason was to protect them.
Yes.
And these were women who were kept as former sex slaves by the warring militia. So in the Central African Republic, there are basically two militias. One is called the Anti-Balaka and Anti-Saleka, which is basically the Christian and the Muslim communities. And they don't get along, and there's a lot of rivalry and infighting between them. There are certain situations where an entire village could be wiped out overnight, by the militia. They come, they rob the houses. Sometimes they take young boys as child soldiers, and they can put fire to the entire village and raise it to the ground, and then they kill the men, and they take the women as sex slaves. So the women that you saw there, most of them, you saw the portraits there. They were kept as sex slaves. Some of them were kept up to 9 months, 10 months, until they had a chance to escape. And each of them, they have their own stories. And I mean, is there a way we could see the photographs, or it's difficult right now to show them, right?
No, I can show them again.
If you could go one by one, then I could just explain, and I can tell you, maybe go to the next image so that the audience can understand a little bit.
Right. So it's going to run all together. But I think what we can do is also share the screen, but I'm not sure how we do that. I'm not very technologically friendly.
That's all right.
Yeah, I can. Should we run the movie again? Do you want me to?
That's okay. That's okay. I mean, people can go to my website, or they can just type my name and Google, and they can check.
Yes.
Check it.
What we've also done is given your the information on your websites for each of those work which you've done. So we'll put them up on the comment section again for people to be able to follow those links and go and see for themselves.
Sure, not a problem. So basically, it was about documenting. And one thing that we kept in mind is that we did not want the women to be seen. Because if you look at the portrayal of Black people, especially Black women from poor countries, their faces are shown, even if they are rape survivors or something really bad has happened to them. But if you look at the same thing, if you think about the same thing, would you show somebody from UK in that light if the woman has been raped? Or would you show someone who, was a victim of domestic violence? And would you show it? Because then you think about the laws and the different things. And something that a lot of journalists take for granted is when they go to these poor countries and where there's a violence happening, it becomes very, very easy to reveal these things. I'm not saying the work is easy, but sometimes you don't think about those ethical lines, and we were very careful that we did not want to reveal their identity, or we didn't want to do anything.
Their privacy. Yes, absolutely,
yeah. So once this story was published by HRW, there was a lot of discussion around the international policy making bodies. So it had done some kind of impact to bring it to light. That there is something happening in this country, and you have to look at it. There is an urgency that needs to be addressed.
Absolutely. I mean, that kind of work is what it's supposed to do, is to bring these stories in the forefront for others to take notice of, and then to address them accordingly, whatever is suitable, and take appropriate measures. Else what happens is that these stories remain untold, and we never get to tell about them, never get to hear about them. So for viewers, if you would like to visit, get more information and see the pictures all over again on You could visit Smita's website. The link we've given, it's scrolling down on the screen. So you can check them out on this link. And yeah, the very, very powerful, I would say, those photos, Smita.
Thank you so much, Shonali.
And yes, what totally comes forward is that how much work you have done to protect their identities, yet at the same time you didn't you had to make the pictures share as much information as they could. So that's definitely not an easy work to do. So
I mean, yeah,
yeah,
sure. Sorry.
no,
Please go ahead.
carry on.
What I just wanted to add is about, visually it becomes a challenge to show and not to show, how much to show, what to show. It's a constant tussle to come out with creativity to try and portray the women with respect and dignity, and yet show their personality and not show them as victims.
Yeah, absolutely. Well done. So moving on from this piece of work to something else now, Smita. So what is your other project which you did, your other work which you did, and you would like to talk to us about?
Okay, so this is not a very intense project. It's a project that I really enjoyed working on. But again, it's based on women, but it's about women in conservation. And this is basically, again, this was an assignment for the Audubon magazine of US. And I was sent to Assam, which is very close to where I was born. So it almost felt like that I was going back home to work on a story, which was really positive. And this basically, what I documented was about this group of women who are called the Hargila Army. And this is basically women from the villages of Assam near Guwahati in the Brahmaputra Valley, who protect a certain species of bird. And that bird scientifically is called the greater adjutant stork. Locally, it's called Hargila, which means bone swallower in Assamese. And the reason why they are called Hargila is because it's a 5 foot tall bird. It's a 5 foot tall bird. You almost feel that you're standing next to a dinosaur kind of bird, It's a 5 foot tall bird, and it's a scavenger bird.
And have you seen it
So,
for yourself?
yeah, because I
You
documented
did.
it.
Yeah, wow.
And the unique thing about Assam is that this bird, which existed a century ago from Pakistan up to Laos, in so many countries, was wiped out almost. And that right now it is an endangered species, and I think 90% of the population of this bird are found in Assam.
Okay.
So this entire movement was led by this conservationist called Dr. Purnima Burman, who made this Hargila army. And her work has been towards educating the locals about why this bird is important to them, why this bird is unique, and why their conservation is important in terms of not cutting trees, in terms of not poisoning the food and killing the birds. Because sometimes in the olden days, what people used to do is that they would mix rat poison, in the food, and they would keep it outside their home so that the birds would come and eat it and die, because they considered Hargila to be a bad omen. There was certain superstition that was carried out on this bird, because this bird was a flesh-eating bird. So they thought that this is a dirty bird, and this it's better that I get rid of it. And that is primarily the reason why the population of this bird came down so much. So maybe we can look at the work now.
Okay, let's do that. Wow, it just brought smile to my face. It's such a wonderful piece of work which you've done, and it's amazing that these local women, they have actually taken it on themselves and come forward to conserve this endangered species of bird. And to be honest, Smita, before this, I had never ever heard of this bird haragila before. The greater what do you call them? The
Adjutant.
adjutant. Yeah, the greater adjutant. So I'd never known that. I come from Northeast. I was born and brought up there, but I never ever had heard of this until you mentioned it. So yeah, thanks to you for bringing in this to us, and that also that this is an endangered species. We had absolutely no awareness of it. So yeah. So how was it when you were working with the villagers and you were taking the pictures, and how was the experience for you?
It was very interesting because I understand Assamese and I can speak broken Assamese. I'm not fluent. So the first day when I went, Purnima, the scientist who leads the Hargala army, she introduced me to the group, and there were like 200 women there,
Oh, wow.
and they had come from nearby villages, for this gathering. And she asked me to give a lecture in Assamese. And I wasn't prepared for it. So it was really funny, but it was really nice because I interacted with them in whatever way I could. And they all were very cooperative and they were all very excited that I was there, to show
Yeah.
what they were doing. And they realized that what they were doing is important. And the way the conservation is practiced is through cultural rituals. For
Mm.
example, November to February is the hatching season of the sargila. So that's when the birds will lay eggs on the nest, and they are big birds, so you need big trees, and that is a region where there are really huge trees.
Oh.
So uh, you know um, educating the villagers not to cut the trees was one thing.
Mm.
And also, when the birds build a nest, not destroying them, uh, that was another thing. And just before the hatching season, like how you have the ceremony, what is that word called? In Assamese it's called Panchamit, or in Hindi it's called Godbharai.
Okay, yeah, the baby
Baby
shower.
shower, the baby
Mm.
shower. Yeah. So they have baby shower event for the Hargila,
Oh,
because
wow.
before the hatching ceremony. So all the women they gather. You saw them; they were making laddus, right?
Yeah.
So they make they make laddus. They make everything that is done for a pregnant woman. They do everything for the bird. They
Wow.
pray. They hold kirtans. So they basically anything that they would do for a pregnant woman before giving birth to a child, they do it for the Hargila, so
Mm.
that and they pray so that the birds can hatch, and everything goes on well, and they have new babies the following year.
Wow, wow, that is so interesting. To extend, ourselves to nature and to, own them just as one of us is, I think it's a very, I'm sure they didn't give so much of intense thought to it. It came as a, natural extension of themselves to the environment they're living in. But to think of it deeply, it is something I would say a very spiritual act. Um,
It is indeed.
yeah. So, oh, that's really so enriching to know. And so, with how are they funded? Where do the funds come from to carry on with this kind of conservation project which they are doing?
So the basically it's led by Purnima, and she's a Green Oscar Award winner,
Oh,
which is the Whitley Award, which is huge in the environment field. So the money that she got from the award, she used it to educate the villagers, to make a
mm,
Hargila learning center in the village, and also to educate schools. Because if you look at some of the images that I showed, you would
yes,
see that there are Hargila statues that were built in front of the schools in the villages to educate the children, so that they are proud of their heritage, they are proud of what they have, and so
Yeah.
that they know that what they have is really unique and one of a kind in the entire world.
Yes, I also saw the picture of, we saw the picture of children drawing at the stalks,
Mhm.
the Hargilas in school. So that shows how much of the awareness has seeped into the local people of that place.
Right,
Amazing,
right.
amazing. That's so good. So, Smita, you must be aware that we had launched Triveni last month with India Needs You fundraising program for India's COVID crisis. And the money was raised for the NGO Indian Ladies in UK's India COVID Relief Fund. We are now focusing on helping the widows and orphans of COVID in Uttarakhand through IL UK. And currently, any proceeds from our programs are going towards it. Now, you have also initiated a fundraising, print fundraiser, Shrishti, for India's COVID crisis. So, would you like to say something about that?
Sure. So the concept was that to bring photographers from across the globe who could donate their image, their print, and this was done in collaboration with Srishti, who are based out of Singapore, Chennai, Bangkok, in many places across Southeast Asia. So what Srishti did was, right now they're printing the print. It's at the printer in Chennai. The photographs are being printed because people went and bought the prints. You could, and the print size was like 10 by 15. So you could go, and there were like 50 images to choose from different photographers. Each photographer donated one image, and you could select whichever you would want to have it in your home or in your office,
Yeah.
and then the and then we would ask you to give your address so that we could ship it. And this was during the peak of the second wave when we did it. And right now the printing is going on, and soon we'll be shipping it out to the people who donated for this cause.
Okay. That's really brilliant. So,
Sorry, I also forgot to mention the main thing. Sorry.
yeah.
So the funds that were generated from the sprint sale, they are going to be donated to three different organizations. One is Responsible Charity, which is based out of Kolkata, working for children's education in the slum community of Kolkata.
Yeah.
One is for New Light, which is a non-profit working to help children of sex workers.
Oh,
uh,
okay. Yeah.
because that is a community who don't get much help.
Yeah.
The government rations or the government benefits that was given to the marginalized communities, that did not reach the sex workers. Um, they don't have
Oh,
Aadhaar cards, or they don't have the necessary documentation, so they cannot get certain things. So it was to
okay.
help them and their children, because obviously they are not earning right now. And the third portion of it was given to this organization, which is based out of Delhi, called Shakti Vahini, who helped to rescue, girls from red light areas, girls who are trafficked.
Okay. Okay. Right. So, for viewers who are listening and watching, if you would like to contribute to Shrishti, which is a COVID print fundraiser initiated by Smita Sharma, we've
we
given.
actually we actually closed the print fundraiser,
Oh,
but
have
if
you?
anyone but if anyone is, yeah, we just completed, because we had to we had to stop and we had to start with the shipping and the printing.
True. Yeah.
If we kept it on for almost for more than a month, almost 45 days. But if
Okay.
anyone is interested to donate, they could donate to the three organizations that we are supporting. They could
Directly. Okay.
directly, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that is a good thing. So, for viewers, they could, maybe we could post the details of the NGOs, the
Sure.
organizations, on the comments, and for viewers to take note of later. So, now moving on. Uh, You have won like numerous accolades: Amnesty International Media Award for photojournalism and One World Media Award for your short film Rebel with a Cause. Um, what was that short film about? If in brief you could just give us an overview of that.
So it was a very empowering story about female police in from Jaipur who basically patrol the city and take care of any kind of crime that happens in public spaces, especially towards women. And having women police personnel in public space means it automatically brings down the level of crime because men don't men, generally they don't dare to touch women or do anything, and
Yeah.
they are basically an extremely sincere and extremely I would say interesting group of these women police, who I mean there are two shifts from morning to night. They're patrolling the entire city, and because of them the crime rate of Jaipur has come down
Wow.
because of their presence.
Wow, amazing. Again, this was something I wasn't too much aware of until you told me. So that is again, yeah. So where would if somebody's interested to have a look at the documentary, to watch the documentary, where could they go?
Sure, I can send the link which you could share it
Thank.
with your. Sure, sure, yeah. But this was basically done for the Elle magazine in
Mhm.
UK, so it is available on their website. But I'm going to share the link with you in some.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sure.
So Smita, we have one thing in common between us. You are from my hometown, Shillong. How privileged we were to have grown up in a place which was endowed with natural beauty, perfect weather, where temperature never went above some 25 to 28 degrees Celsius in summer. Very fond memories. So, Smita, how did you reach to this incredible space in your career as a photojournalist? Please, can you talk us through your journey?
Well, um, I mean, growing up in the 90s, you know, when there was a lot of racial violence, ethnic violence, I think that impacted everyone. I'm sure it impacted you and all of us who grew up in that environment where you're almost treated like you don't belong there. You are an outsider. You're a foreigner in your own country, right? So
Absolutely.
I think that had an impact on me certain way because uh, there was no national level reporting on what was happening, and it didn't happen for 1 or 2 days. It happens for months and years, right?
Yeah.
And uh, but if you looked at the news, there was not so much of cable television those days. It was
Hmm.
primarily the Doordarshan, the government aided channel, but you couldn't see much of the news there. So that was the reason, I think, why I ventured into stories and as a journalist, because I wanted to tell things that people don't know. And from Shillong, I went to Bombay, I went to Pune for higher education. Then I worked in Calcutta at a newspaper for some years. That was not the kind of work that I wanted to do. And, basically, if you work for the Indian media, it's either you're doing entertainment or either you're doing political stories, you know. And I did not want to do either. I wanted to do uh, stories that I cared about and in-depth, long-term stories.
Yeah.
So, and I wanted to do it visually. I just did not want to write about it because I feel, until and unless you see something, it really doesn't impact, especially now when our attention span is so low.
Absolutely.
So after my stint with ABP in Calcutta, I went to New York, and then I graduated in photojournalism and documentary photography from ICP, which is the International Center of Photography.
Mm.
And then I stayed in New York for a couple of years, worked there. I gained as much as experience as I could, And then I felt that I need to come back and work on things that I want to work on and that matter to me.
Ah, brilliant. I mean, so rewarding, Smita, your work is. And also with that comes a huge responsibility that you have to capture your subject objectively. We generally identify, I mean, we all identify ourselves in multiple ways, isn't it? With a certain gender, culture, community, religion, and so many other identities we have, which we identify with. Now, how do you not let those identities color your vision? Um, uh, and how do you stay away from being biased? How do you manage to be on the neutral road?
My God, this is again a very, very important and tricky question. I think as human beings, we all come with our perceptions. We all grow with certain educations, certain stories around us, right? And we can't get rid of it. Uh, None of us can. So being unbiased and working on something is hard, but I try. And the best way to try that is to listen. You have to go and listen to the people that you want to work with. You have to give them uh, that openness, make them feel comfortable that they can share their stories with you. You cannot go there with a preconceived notion that okay, this is what is happening there. For example, I'll give an example. When I was working in Nepal on the issue of child marriage, and this was back a few years back. This was on assignment, and before I was going there, I was told like, okay, we are going to these regions, and basically young girls are getting married, child marriage. So I thought it's poverty, it's illiteracy, and that is the reason why the parents are, arranging to get the children married. And when I went there, the story was a little different than what I had expected. The girls were eloping and getting married on their own by the age of 14, 15. And that baffled me that why would they elope, leave school and elope and get married? So when we started interviewing the girls, that's when we realized that the girls had said that, look, education is free, up to this level of education, just like India, it is also free in Nepal, basic level of education. He said, I can go to a school, but who's going to pay for my books? Who's going to pay for my other necessary things that I need to for an assignment or a school project? Who's going to pay for my uniform? We can't afford it, right? And also because they could not, the parents could not afford, so they had to leave school. They had no other option. And when they were home, there were many families who were sending the daughters to Pokhara and to other tourist places where they were sent as domestic maids. So they would work in those small hotels, cleaning as cleaning ladies.
Yeah.
And that is not a life that any
Day
girl they want it, or anyone wants. And it's cold, it's difficult,
Yeah.
to wash hundreds of dishes every morning. So many of them, when they came back, they fell in love with a boy of their own community, and then they decided that let me have some power over my own self. Let me make a decision for myself, because I know my parents are going to get me married eventually. So why not I marry the man that I like? And that's what they did. So I think that is where I went with my preconceived notion, and what I learned there was pretty different from what I knew.
Yeah. It's not always what is seen on the surface. So once you scratch the surface and you keep scratching and scratching and peel the layers, it's then when the real story unfolds.
Absolutely, you just said it.
And like you said, yes, humanitarian issues, human rights issues, social issues, environmental issues, or ecological issues, they all go beyond any societal or biological or geographical or even regional constructs. I also personally do not categorize them, because it's about transcending the boundaries and connecting with the whole and the bigger picture. And you are doing it so well. I reckon, with the Central African Republic work which you did, which you talked about, when you were talking about it, I was thinking that it would have definitely come with the risks. So what were the challenges and risks which you face in these situations? Because a civil war is going on there, and two group of people are against each other, and I don't think within that conflict a journalist gets in. It's a huge risk to your life, isn't it?
Yeah, that was a huge risk. And that was my first time working in a conflict zone. I hadn't worked before that. So even to get to the country was a huge challenge because, there's no embassy for that country here in India. The French
Mm,
embassy, they issue, because once upon a time, it was a French colony, that country,
okay.
so just going there was a huge challenge just to get the visa. And once I landed there, it was again another challenge to talk to the women, to ensure that they were safe, to ensure that we were safe, and and be able to do that job. So there are certain moments that you have to figure out whether it is okay to be there, and there are certain times you have to give your sixth sense some kind of uh, you know you have to give it some kind of thing, because if you feel that if you don't get good vibes, you should just leave. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So how
But
how how many days were you there when you were working on that?
we were there for 6 days, less than around six
Yeah.
days. Yeah.
So almost a week in a
Mhm.
zone of conflict.
Yeah, and there's
Oh,
no Indian embassy there. There's no
no,
consulate, nothing.
no.
So that was a huge risk, because if anything had happened to me, touch wood, um, who do who would have taken responsibility?
Mm,
So
yeah.
that was there, and my husband was definitely not very happy. I think he was more stressed than I was.
Yes, your family. I can imagine like how stressful it must have been for them thinking about your safety. Hats off to you, Smita. So courageous, so strong you are. So every single project that you do takes a lot from you in terms of your time, traveling, out of hours work, emotional and physical energy. I'm sure it is not easy for you to meet the demands of family work, family life, and work, isn't it? How do you balance that?
Again, you're asking me very tricky questions, or I wouldn't say tricky, but those are very important questions. It's I don't know if I have the right answer about balancing. I still think I need to you know really work on time management and prioritize things. But somewhere down the line, you have to do both. Uh, you have to give time to your family, and for your own emotional mental health you have to give
Yeah.
yourself some time. So having a supportive family, having a supportive group of friends, I think is really important, because the work can get very intense, and the work can get very depressing sometimes. And even when I'm working in the field, I try to keep my focus, and
Mm,
try to work, why I'm there, try to work and get the work done. I don't. I try not to let my emotions get over me then. But what happens is, when I come back home and when I'm sitting and working and looking at those images, that's when I really feel that kind of emotion surge in me, that kind of pain or that kind of thing. Um, that's when I really feel it. And camera, sometimes, when you have the camera in front of you and you're shooting, it almost acts like a shield. You feel there's something in front of you that is
mm,
protecting you from what's happening on the
yeah,
other side.
yeah.
Yeah, so that's there. And
Mm,
again, sometimes, I mean, working in remote areas, uh, any remote area, it's difficult, especially for a woman, because you don't have access to restrooms or
mm,
toilets.
mm,
That becomes a challenge.
yeah.
Sometimes, like, it can get really hot. Um, you can get dehydrated. So
Mm,
all those things are there, and sometimes you can find no place where you could eat. So you have to really stack yourself up before you go to these
mm,
field trips. You have to prepare yourself. So all these things are necessary, and a little bit of research. I mean, not I think a lot of research, not a little bit, before you go
I'm
where you're
sure.
going. That's important.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I mean, your work is so very intense, requiring so much of emotional engagement with people's pain. Your work covers, very, like you said, very disturbing, dark contents, which most of us would rather not delve in to keep our sanity. You bring these stories forward so that those issues can be addressed, so that you and the people and appropriate people can, be advocates for the people who are suffering, so that awareness can spread. Else, what happens is that stories remain as uncovered, remains untold, and that is something which I think people like you, that is where you step in and help these stories come out in the open. And like you said, my next question would have been, how do you cope with all these things? And you have answered it already. And I can appreciate when you say that you have, you need your network of family and friends to help you when you're not working or when you're coming back home after dealing with all that. Yes, it's definitely not easy. So yeah, appreciate your work, really. Uh, so, Smita, your work and dedication, and an amazing person you are. I really feel so humbled that you have been with us today in this journey, and I mean it's absolute honor to have you with us. So, what is your next work which you're going to do?
So I have something coming up. I don't know if I. Okay, I'm going to talk about it. So I have been. For the last couple of years, I have worked on human trafficking, especially sex trafficking, in South Asia, primarily India and Bangladesh. And that story was published last year. So I'm working on the next thing for that. Perhaps I'm trying to come out with a book or something. Yeah. And right now I'm focusing mostly on my child. I'm not venturing out much in this pandemic because I appreciate journalists who are venturing out, who are risking it, but I decided not to do much because everyone has their own priorities, and I have a little child, so my priority is that right now.
Absolutely, you
But
have.
that doesn't mean I'm not working. I'm still working
You're still
on other
working.
things.
Work never stops, isn't it? And with your kind of work, I think you can do so much by also not going out there and being at home. And like you said, you're planning to bring a story forward by writing a book. So that needs a lot of dedication and attention away from people, away from being out there in the field, in your own quiet space. So yeah. And I know you've got a lovely 2-year-old who needs attention from you as well. And it's like it's not easy to be a mother of a 2-year-old and then do your work as well. So
You're a
yeah,
mother, so you know the challenges of
absolutely,
motherhood that everyone does, and I think it's for every mother. Whether
absolutely,
you're a homemaker or whether you're working in
yeah.
whichever profession, everybody has their own set of challenge. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Bringing up a child is we don't come with a manual. So I would say that for a mother, for a father, it's challenging.
Yeah, I think parenting is a full-time job.
Yes.
It's very underrated. I think it should not be.
It should not be, and I think we should be made aware of how it is difficult. It is difficult to be. It is enjoyable at the same time. There are the challenges, and if again, it is taken for granted that once a person comes of age and gets married and gets a child, or even in whatever conditions have a child.
I was asked questions. I mean, it's kind of funny because before I was married, I would get questions from, okay, so you don't want to get married because you think you're not going to be able to work, or questions like that. Or
Yeah.
and then when I did, there were questions like, does your husband allow you to work? Which I find really hilarious and as well as amazing, because it talks about the patriarchal mindset that we all
Yes,
come in, irrespective
absolutely.
of your level of education.
No,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
true.
And
That's
now
true.
that I'm a mother, I get questions like, how do you manage to work? Do you leave your child and you go and you work outside?
Yes, yes. Yeah, no, that's true. It reflects on the kind of environment we all are in. Um, oh, it's been such a lovely time that I've spent with you, Smita, and also all the viewers who've been watching us. And the amazing person you are, your willingness to extend yourself beyond the comfort and security of your home, your immediate family and friends, the sensitivity in which with you document people's pain. It's not easy. It's not easy to look eye to eye with people's pain and suffering as a regular part of your work. So thank you for being with us today and sharing your magic, Smita. It's been an exceptionally humbling and emotionally touching, I would say. Um, look at listening to you and your experiences, and I'm sure also for those who are watching today with us. An hour is just too short a time to capture the length and breadth of your work and experiences. I really do look forward to more conversations with you in the future. And
Thank you so much, Shonali.
my pleasure, really. May you keep shining your light brightest.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. It's a real pleasure to be here.
Most welcome, Smita. So, hello, viewers. Thank you, everyone, for joining in and watching the program. Please follow us, subscribe to our channel, Triveni Media. Thank you, C4 Integrated, for sponsoring our program today and for your support. We will have more events coming up on Triveni. Watch the space. Goodbye from me, Shonali, and Team Triveni for being with us today and watching our program. Take care, stay safe, and be happy. Bye-bye.